Hello, everybody out there. Today we're going to be talking about cost benefit with children in the courtroom. So if you're ready, let's get started with episode 179. Hi, Doreen. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah? Why are you so good?
I don't know. Why am I laughing?
I don't know.
I don't know. You just cracked me up.
So what's new?
It's so interesting how our minds, I don't know if it's the Venus-Mars thing, the male-female thing, but our minds just operate differently. I think all the women out there are probably going, I know what you're talking about. Anyhow.
Okay. And I'm sure
all the men
are saying, yes, they are from another planet.
Exactly. Yes. Or just, I guess, the world in general.
Well, it's nice to meet you in the moon. We'll meet at the moon.
All right. So this is a serious subject.
It is.
Even though we're starting off kind of fun. And first of all, I wanted to go back because the subject is about cost benefit, children issues in divorce or post-divorce or paternity cases when they're not married, and the courtroom, right? What do you do? So we've talked a lot about cost benefit when it comes to support, meaning alimony, child support, or values and distribution of assets, right?
Correct.
And I'm big on that. At my law firm, we look at the issues, how much it's what your chances of winning are, what you have to show, what the facts are, and then the cost of getting there if you can't come to an agreement, meaning fees, cost, experts, things like this, and time. So recently we had a case, one of my amazing lawyers, Martin, was really leading this case, and had a case for several years in which there was what we call post-judgment modification of the parenting plan and some child support, because it goes hand in hand, right? If you modify the time-sharing schedule, usually the child support always changes because
Makes
in
sense.
Florida, it's based on overnights.
Right.
Amazing guy. I never met the former wife, don't know anything about him, but I have met, obviously, our client and his new wife and family. I didn't meet the family, but the wife, and just really good people. Mm-hmm. Young child. I'm not going to say anything that is off, outside of public record for the purpose of privacy, of course. Mm-hmm. But just, the pleadings show, or the court file shows that they had been divorced and there was a parenting plan in place, and our client was looking for more time sharing, more overnights than what he was having. Also issues with the school, and also issues as to what school the child will go to, and a lack of agreement between the parties. So that was an issue post-divorce, and also other issues like activity issues, deciding between parents what activity the child's going to be involved in, and then also their communication style, the way that the co-parents were communicating was an issue. When co-parents don't talk to each other and can't set aside their agendas, it hurts the children, right? And so what happens is, a lot of times after your divorce and you're in your parenting plan, you're trying to work with your co-parent, and you're not on the same vibe, the same, and I'm not talking about what you're going to eat for dinner. Okay,
right.
The courts don't care about that. Maybe they should, but they don't. I'm talking about big issues,
right.
Like where they're going to go to school, what activities they're going to be involved in, what the time sharing looks like, health-related issues. There was also some issues with that. And, when parents don't agree post-divorce, it's chaos. It's chaos for the parents. It's chaos for the children. And so this was about that. Our client was seeking more time with the child and more responsibility co-parenting because of some inability to do that. So when I talk about cost benefit, I usually talk about values based on numbers, right? If we go for this asset at this value, this means this amount to my client. It's quantifiable.
Right.
But I need to correct myself that you can't quantify, obviously, children issues. Spending more time with your child is something that it has inherent value. It's not tangible.
Right.
It's an intangible. And you cannot, it's very challenging, maybe even impossible to quantify a real cost value on it, like a number. Saying, I'm gonna go to court, I'm gonna spend X amount of years in the system because I want more time with my child. Or because I can't co-parent with my ex. Or because we have an issue with regard to what school the child's gonna go to, right? It's expensive.
Yeah.
It's expensive. So I just wanted to clarify and talk about that today, because I think a lot of parents struggle with that after they're trying to, after the divorce or after the paternity judgment is in place, and they struggle with the co-parenting issues.
Yeah.
Right?
You have had some cases where they do disagree with the type of food a child eats, or some of the minor things that you might consider minor, but it was big and important thing to the parents. Where it was either vegan, McDonald's, or stuff like that.
But I tell you to go home. Go home.
Yeah.
Listen, the courts are not going to micromanage what the child is being fed.
Right.
They can't. I was just talking to one of our judges here in South County, which is Palm Beach County, Florida, Palm Beach, Florida, and our South County division, so down in Boca, Delray area, where we live. And the judge was telling me that she has 600 cases, 600 active family-related cases. She's one judge. And I heard from another judge who had similar numbers. They can't micromanage it. The statute in Florida talks about what does it mean to have parental responsibility, and that's at co-parenting, and it's major decisions in the child's life. Health and welfare, education, activities to some degree, those types of things, you know, because they couldn't possibly, nor should they, micromanage parents. So if a parent comes to me and has issues that are important, I'm not suggesting they're not important, they're very important, okay? I think food, personally, what you put in your body, we're big on that, right? So I'm very in tune with your example. However, if you came to me as a client, I would tell you, I know you're telling me he's feeding him McDonald's or fast food, I don't want to name out a particular company, but fast food, you're vegan, but I can't do much about this, but you can still be sympathetic.
Like choose your battles.
You gotta choose your battles. I think my biggest advice as a lawyer is, first of all, go talk to a therapist if you have an issue where it's not up my alley. But as your child gets older, or even starting young, teach them. Teach them when you have them why we don't eat fast food, why we look for organic foods, how fruits and vegetables and proteins and macros and all the things help your body, and teach them. Because then when they go to the other parent's house and that parent wants to feed them something not so great, they're going to start talking. So that's my advice there, is spend your money teaching your child, whatever that looks like.
That's great advice, great advice.
Go shopping with them, take them to the store, show them all the things. You could do that in all levels, right? You can teach a child through your own behaviors, right? For example, another thing we have is about study habits. Parents differ a lot on study habits, bedtimes. And so I'll have someone come to me and say, but she doesn't have the children in bed. They get to stay up until 11 o'clock. They're not doing their homework, all the things. I'll be like, how's their grades? Oh, their grades are fine. I'm like, yeah, the court isn't gonna likely, maybe we start to enforce better habits at our house and start to instill that kind of mentality in the child, and hopefully it carries over. The other thing I think is important before you jump into post-divorce modifications of parenting plans, because like I said, it's expensive, you can't quantify it. If you have a good attorney, it's going to cost you a bundle, okay? Is how long is it going to take you to get through this? how is it going to affect the child, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also, what is the age of the child? Because if the child is young, like in our recent case, under 10, there's many years left. The majority in Florida is 18 or meaning they no longer are under the auspices of the court, or if they're in high school and 18, if they graduate, so the high school date before 19. But if the child is like 16 and you're coming to me with certain issues, even wanting more time, me personally, I would be very careful to take that case. Because a 16-year-old kind of wants to go where they want to go, and even though the order of the time sharing is still in effect until they're 18, you start getting up there in those ages, and they're probably driving, they're maybe working, they got after school activities, they're running their life. And so it's really like, I don't know that the cost benefit that is there to pursue custody issues unless it's really severe.
So you're not the only one. I mean, your clients aren't the only ones deciding the cost benefit, but you're kind of deciding the cost benefit for your client as well, whether even to take the case.
Well, exactly. Well, I think it's my responsibility to do that, right? Because some lawyers may not share that opinion. They might just take a case because they take a case. I don't do that. Okay. I'm looking at, can I prevail? Can I win this, right? Do I understand the law and the facts, and which I do, and then can my client win this case, and how much is it going to cost? And when you have an older child, you're going to take a step back. In this recent case, this child was under the age of 10. This is such a formative time for him to get more time with his dad. What a beautiful thing. You can't put a price on that.
No, you can't.
What that's going to do as far as benefits for the child, right? Having that close relationship with both parents, having more time with each parent, those types of things. I mean, we can't really speak about that because we're not therapists, but they say that the trickle-down effect of having that valuable time with a child stems everything from their academic success to their emotional well-being, to role models, to interactions with others, all the things. So I don't know that you put a price on that.
Yeah, I don't know if you can.
I also wanted to talk about the severe cases. Look, if you have abuse, neglect, a substance abuse issue by one parent, a parent that just has gone off the deep end, right? Whatever it looks like, you protect your child. And how do you put a price on that?
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, you call your DCF, which, Department of Children and Families here in Florida, but someone, because there's hotlines for all this, first you take the action, and then you would come into court and try to modify and protect the child, right? If the department doesn't already do that, which in severe cases they will, but not every case is at the level of neglect.
Right.
Or the level of abuse to the level of what the department may quantify. So now they come to us and they want to know, do I have a case? And usually I'll engage an expert to help me, a mental health professional, to understand the facts and to tell me, do we have a case, right? And how do we pursue this? Let's talk about you.
Okay.
You just rolled your eyes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about you.
What about me?
Well, I guess, an example
Yes.
of you had parenting issues, right? When you were going through your divorce, meaning the custody issues were at issue.
Right.
Okay, now when I got divorced, custody issues were not at issue, meaning we both felt we were good parents and that we would have equal time sharing, or at that point, unfortunately, the primary parent got more time. But anyhow, just, that we would follow the time sharing and we could co-parent together. We didn't have those issues. So our issues were more financial.
Okay.
In your case, tell us the
Well,
issues.
in my case, it was more, we agreed at the time of the divorce of 50-50, and you do what you want to do and I do what I want to do.
What does that mean?
Meaning you feed him what you want to feed him, you do whatever activities you want to do, I'll do whatever activities I want to do. Not realizing the implications that was going to have on not only our son, but also on my ability to act as a parent.
Yeah, you know what? A light bulb just went off for me. Because when we got married, it'll be 16 years in November, I believe he was 8.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but I just had the light bulb go off because I think what you're saying to me is that because you guys couldn't communicate, agree on any level from what you said, right?
Correct.
It was just complete breakdown of communication across the board.
Correct.
That you decided, okay, I'll have my 50% of the time, she'll have hers, and then we'll just do what we want on our own time. Oh my goodness. So that's where a lot of the problem lied.
Yeah, so it was almost like a Jekyll and Hyde where he was a different boy with her and a different boy with me. And I don't know if you remember this, but we had to reprogram him every time he came home.
Yeah, I'm sure some of our listeners are dealing with that.
Yeah.
It's different levels of reprogram. What do you mean by reprogram?
Well, in other words, the other parent lets me do this, the other parent lets me do that.
So when they come
I
back
go to sleep when I want to.
Right, but when they come back to us,
They're back to our rules and our way of doing things.
No, what I'm suggesting is I wanted you to describe what would happen when he would come back from visitation. Right. What behaviors, you had to reprogram.
Well, it was a lot of, let's see, how do you put it? I would see a child that was not the way I wanted him to be. In other words, I wanted discipline, certain behaviors of studying, certain behaviors of coming home, going to sleep when they were supposed to go to sleep, get up, go to school.
I think what you're saying is he didn't want to keep a curfew.
Right.
As he got older, he didn't want to go to sleep on time.
Correct.
He didn't want to study.
Correct.
All the things.
All the things.
Right. So in our home, we were big on those things.
Absolutely.
You had a bedtime, you had a study time, et cetera, et cetera. And I recall that it was a challenge. And he would get into the groove. He would when he was with us, and he seemed to be really happy doing it.
You mean playing this kind of thing? That kind of thing?
I
mean the groove?
No, I don't think so.
What's the groove mean?
I think he got into the groove of study time, bedtimes, cleaning up after yourself, the things that we required, and he was okay with it. It was good for him.
Yes.
I saw it. And then he would leave and come, and we'd have to reprogram constantly.
Right.
Where
the reprogramming wasn't too difficult. I mean, he knew what the rules were and our lifestyle. I wouldn't necessarily call them rules, but our lifestyle was like, and like you just said, I think he thrived on discipline.
Yeah,
kids love discipline.
I don't know, that's what the experts say, right? They say that kids really, they want discipline, they crave discipline, they need discipline, they need routines, all the things.
And then he was getting the praise and the, he's a really, really good kid. And
absolutely,
and
the best.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so talking about cost benefit, children issues, divorce, money, and going to court.
Right.
Looking back, and would you have done anything differently, starting first with the divorce? Because I see as a lawyer, if you were my client and you were telling me certain things, I would probably have had some advice to pursue at least decision making over certain types of things, because having two households that have completely different, even you said activities, right? Like, how does a child participate in a team sport if on half the time with the other parent, they're not going to the practices?
Showing up for football practice.
Yeah, I mean, that happened. I remember that was horrible.
Yeah.
But so going back and looking at, now, in the rear view mirror.
We call that armchair quarterbacking.
Yeah, Monday morning quarterback.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had a lawyer that was amazing. He's very well known.
Yeah.
He was doing it. He was doing the divorce pro bono.
Okay.
He was, a good person, and I knew him through karate. And I guess I wish he would have given me more advice on what I could do, knowing
Fight
the situation my wife was in.
Fight a little harder then to hopefully get a better result and
Right.
ultimately, have more, I guess, I hate to use the word control, but.
Well, I think when I use the term armchair quarterback, it's perfect because if I knew now what I know then.
Right.
In other
right.
words, if I knew that a person, a kid, a child could turn out certain ways based on the experience that they go through with the parenting.
Yeah, between the two households.
Between the two households,
Yeah.
I would have done a lot of things different.
Yeah. I know, and I was just thinking that I remember one of my very first cases, and I, to this day, will never forget this image in my mind. I was a young lawyer, maybe out, 5 years or something, and I had a case. I had a trial with two very small children, 5 and 3. I represented the mother. I still speak with her from time to time. Her first name is Terry. And the father was a very well-respected CFO of a company. I'm not going to say who, and his mother was the equivalent to like a magistrate, judges, and then you have magistrates in New York. Very nice family, well polished. Would come to the courtroom, suit, very handsome, put together, groomed, very well spoken, but he had what we believed was a substance abuse issue, and it was very on the hush, meaning there wasn't a lot of evidence of it, right? I think a lot of people that have an issue with drugs or alcohol, they're not out there doing their thing in the public. You might see the after effects of it, and she did, but he even did that behind closed doors, right? It was just her and him. So she would see that he was wasted, right?
Okay.
So it wasn't a lot of evidence. And I remember we won the hearing, meaning supervised visitation. We had to piece together a lot of what they call collateral issues or cumulative facts, right? Like a little bit about this and this behavior, and we had him tested and anyhow. And we won the hearing. There was supervised visitation. The goal with him to go to rehab and get healthy, and then to reunite the children with him. That was the goal. And I was driving off the expressway, 95, and there was a Mercedes in front of me. And it was a very pretty Mercedes. I remember, I was 5 years out of law school, so I had no money. I was still paying my...
You noticed it?
Yeah, I noticed it, and I thought, wow, that's a beautiful car. And I guess that's about, I don't know at the time, whatever it was, $50,000 or dollars or whatever it was. And I thought, that's a lot of money. And that's what she paid in fees. I remember the cost of the car. I'm thinking that's what she paid. Very expensive, right? Back then. I was 5 years practicing. I've been 30 years practicing, 25 years ago.
Right.
And I thought, but what a beautiful price to pay for the safety of her children. Right?
I think, again, if I could go back and do it again, I would have gladly have paid him whatever the amount was.
You didn't know.
Because, well, I don't want to, ignorance isn't, what they say about ignorance isn't an excuse, but I think I could have asked more questions.
Right.
And I think I could have been educating myself a lot more, doing more research. But also I think I made it clear I wanted the easy way out, just to get through the divorce and get it over with and get her out of my life, not considering my sons.
I understand. I mean, you were trying to, your primitive brain, as we talk about it a lot, was trying to get away from the pain. Avoid pain, seek pleasure. And to you, that meant get out.
Right.
And
well, I thought everything was going to be fantastic. I had my son 50% of the time. He was going to be raised to being a great kid. And, I just didn't understand the consequences of what could have happened on the other side.
Yeah. And he's doing well. I mean, he's okay.
He's a great kid.
But there were challenges.
He's a great adult. He's a
right,
kid
an
now.
adult, right?
Yeah.
So anyhow, cost benefit, right? Can't really talk about it with children is the bottom line. You have to really think about the intangibles and have a conversation with your lawyer about your chances of prevailing. and what that really looks like, because the law is always changing. You know, when I first started, the tender years doctrine used to be a thing. It sounds like it sounds, where moms got most of the time with children.
Right.
And then they had primary and secondary parents, and the primary parents were like the caregivers, typically the mothers back then, and they got most of the time, right? And then they basically had a presumption of 50-50 time sharing, and then they took away the presumption of 50-50 time sharing, and now the presumption of 50-50 time sharing is back.
Yeah, when I was going through my divorce, it seemed like the 50-50 that I got was like a victory.
Oh, really? Probably.
It was a victory. It was like, wow, you got 50%. That was great.
Because
so it was really nothing to question. It was nothing to question because I did well. I got 50-50.
Yeah, I know. It's been a long many years where now we're at a point, and I think most of the courts are like this. And for me personally, I think it's fantastic that they look at parents not as male, female, not as mother, father, not as gay, straight, or anything in between, or whatever it is. They just look at what are you as a parent? How is your relationship with your child? What do you do? All the things. In Florida, we have many factors that we look at for custody-related issues. Everything from who's the person most involved in the caregiving, and what is your flexibility at work, and of course mental health and stability, and family and caretaking. They look at a whole list of factors. Right. So whoever the parent is really that fits that role is going to get time with their child. But now we have this presumption of 50-50 time sharing.
And I think what you just said was really important when you talked about talking to your attorney. But I also think it's important that you talk to and pick the brain of your mental health care professional.
Absolutely.
And kind of find out what could happen in the future.
Yes.
What you think would be the best interest of the child if this is your situation. So you have a different perspective. And they may tell you that the cost is worth it.
That is another light bulb. That is such a brilliant thing to tell people. And I am doing that in one of my cases right now, but not for that reason. I'm doing it for a different reason, meaning I have an expert mental health professional who's coming in to help me in one of my cases to determine, certain things to help us to figure it out, right?
Right.
But I never thought that it's just as equally important to go seek advice from the experts on, if I do this and don't fight for this, what does this look like? For example, in your house where two parents have completely different rules, two activities, not talking to each other, how could that affect him or her?
Right.
Wow, that's good. That's good stuff. I'll have to remember to do that more often, I think that most parents today that I encounter, they really do. I think most parents that I work with, they really want what's best for their children. The best interest standard is what controls in our state, in Florida, and I think in most states, and the courts are looking to determine what schedule of access, time sharing, is in the best interest, and what parenting. Is it co-parenting, which we call shared parental responsibility? Is it ultimate decision making on a particular thing like health, welfare, education, activities, even those types of things. But most parents resolve their issues when it comes to their children.
And there's always the alternative where they can't.
What's that?
Well, the parents that can't get along and can't settle their differences.
I know, it's sad.
Yeah.
I just come from this mentality, I think, because I lived it with Sam and I still live it with him, my ex, it was always just a given that we would always do what's in their best interest.
Yeah. And you don't realize how lucky or how great you had it.
Well, I do, because I realize from your example, and I also realize just from, clients and what I do for a living. But anyhow.
Okay.
All right. So closing it up, what do we want to say?
Well,
if you have a child issue, whether and you're in the middle of a divorce or paternity action, you're starting it, really think about it, not looking for problems, but if one exists or the red flag is there or something feels off, talk to your attorney more about it. and explain
And your mental
it.
health care professional.
And talk to your mental health professional about it and do your research. There's such great research online too. Just bring it up.
And I also think that take the emotions out of it between you and your soon-to-be ex, and think future-minded.
Right.
Think of the child's future.
Right. Well, in other words, if it's uncomfortable for you, like in your circumstance where you just wanted to get out of it, be uncomfortable if it's going to help your child.
Right.
But then there's one more thing I want to say, because
Okay.
we mentioned this briefly. It's expensive. And so some people, they just don't have the resources. They don't. And that's really sad. We do have certain things, like we have a legal aid society here in Palm Beach County. They're amazing. And they can't take every case, right? But you had
Yeah, I mean, I was very, very, very
you
lucky.
were very lucky to have somebody who came in and did it.
And if he hears this podcast, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, everybody, have an amazing rest of the day, the week.
And we'll talk to you next week.
We'll talk to you next week.
Bye-bye.
Don't forget to follow us on social media for more empowering content, tips, and inspiration to help you thrive after divorce. And if you're ready to take the next step in your journey, don't miss out on our free 30-minute coaching session. It's a great opportunity to get personalized guidance and support for wherever you are in your divorce journey. Just visit the link in our description to book your appointment.